ICFR's first annual conference. I'm really excited about meeting all the faces that I have been in contact over the past 2 months or even more, and through emails and phone calls. And just yesterday, I had the pleasure of meeting you all and putting faces to names. So I'm really excited and looking forward to this conference that I am hoping all of you, from what I've heard, are excited and looking forward to engaging in such an important discussion on the status of human rights in the Arab world. Today, I think what is going to be enriching is the diversity of the participants. We are here from different countries and with different backgrounds, and I think that adds to the quality of discussion that is going to happen today and tomorrow. There are going to be different sessions under different titles, and the idea behind the roundtable discussion is that you are going to be presented with 2 papers. There's going to be 2 main speakers, and they're going to have 10 minutes each, but then all of us, I'm hoping for a fruitful engagement and bringing out the knowledge, the field of expertise that you come with, and thus we will have some strong coalition to charge forward and to focus and shape our vision for future projects. Now, with no further to say, I would like to welcome Bruce Nestor, who's going to give the opening remarks on behalf of Dr. Anas Al-Tikriti, who couldn't be here with us today. So, welcome, Bruce Nestor.
So I'm sorry that Anas could not be with us due to some health issues, but I'll try to do justice to his opening remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you for being here today as we launch the first annual conference of the International Coalition for Freedoms and Rights, ICFR. I would also like to thank our guests who have come a long way from various parts of the world to join us. I would like at the outset to emphasize the importance of your support for rights and freedoms in the aftermath of the Arab Spring and your efforts in facing up to the challenges of the counter-revolution campaigns launched by dictatorial regimes in an attempt to crush people's will, their right to engage in a democratic process to decide their future, their right to hold officials accountable for crimes committed against humanity, and their right to ensure that all those who breached human rights are brought to justice. The breaches and violations perpetrated by Egyptian security forces in the army demand that human rights organizations exert more efforts to face up to the challenges presented by counter-revolutionary forces in the Arab world. Anyone observing the current situation in the Arab world is bound to notice the absence of instruments that guarantee justice and fairness. It is often authorities themselves who commit crimes against humanity and human rights. This makes our work even more urgent to put an end to this culture of impunity. It has been very important for victims of human rights violations in the Arab world to find hope in organizations that would defend their rights and exert efforts to put an end to the bloodshed and daily crimes, especially since these regimes have been receiving enough political and financial support from foreign sources to keep going for a long time. These repressive regimes have attempted to justify their crimes and human rights violations by alleging they are fighting terrorism to win the support of Western countries and the international community. We would like to stress that the so-called war on terror is not a carte blanche these regimes can use to get away with murder. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past year, a number of lawyers, legal experts, human rights workers, and media personalities have collaborated with ICFR to document human rights violations, especially in Egypt. A number of activities and press conferences were organized, and several reports were published exposing the crimes of the Egyptian regime as documented by ICFR delegations during visits to Egypt. ICFR delegations comprised a number of prominent international lawyers and human rights experts who observed firsthand the crimes and violations committed by the Egyptian authorities since the 30th of June 2013, which led to the military coup on the 3rd of July. Over the past year, many long prison sentences following unfair trials for the simple crime over the past year, many Egyptians have been killed, arrested, or sentenced to death in long prison sentences following unfair trials for the simple crime of opposing the military regime. Among those who have been arrested is the deposed President Mohamed Morsi. ICFR delegations also documented crimes against women and children, including rape and torture. As we present these tragic findings, we must stress that the will of the people is as strong as ever, if not stronger than before. I would like to seize this opportunity to salute all those who have rebelled against oppression and dictatorship in the Arab world. Their revolutionary spirit, their sacrifices, their struggle for freedom and rights, their rejection of persecution and oppression is testimony to their resolve and determination. We would like to reiterate our commitment to offering them all the legal and human rights support they need to bring to justice all those who violated crimes against humanity and committed human rights violations. Ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready to usher in a new year, we must recall Articles 5, 9, and 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which guarantee the right to express opinions freely and prohibit arbitrary arrests, torture, and inhumane and cruel treatment. We will overview ICFR's activities and achievements over the past year and the efforts it exerted towards supporting the freedoms and dignity of the Arab people, protecting the gains of Arab revolutions, bringing coup leaders and supporters to justice, and ensuring that they can no longer act with impunity by prosecuting them in international courts. As lawyers, politicians, and human rights workers who believe in the rights and freedoms of all individuals, we have a lot of work to do and many challenges to tackle. Finally, welcome all of you to the first ICFR conference, and we look forward to hearing your invaluable thoughts and contributions over the next 2 days.
Thank you, Bruce. Now we're just going to watch a short video. Hopefully if you bring down the screen. Yeah? I just want to make sure, did everyone receive a copy of the bios and the program? Okay, so you've got the schedule in there, and hopefully that's a guide of how the day will go on. Okay. Thank you very much. That's about it. Can we have the projector off? Okay. Briefly, I'm going to go over a bit of the activities that we do in more details. And I do apologize, I've noticed some spelling mistakes. If you've noticed your name spelled wrongly, just let us know and we will update it. So over the next few minutes, if this shuts down, I am going to go through as you've noticed that the ICFR has the International Coalition for Freedoms and Rights was established on the 22nd of November when a group of international legal experts and lawyers opposed to the coup in Egypt held a meeting here in Istanbul on the 21st and the 22nd of November 2013 and decided to establish the ICFR network with a focus on the Egyptian case and move on to other cases as the need arises. Participants explored the critical situation in the region as freedoms and democratic systems were being systematically overthrown. Special attention was given to Egypt, which recently witnessed a military coup against a legitimate and democratically elected president in a clear violation of human rights and perpetration of crimes against humanity. The meeting stressed the importance of legal action on an international level to put an end to these violations against civilians and to hold perpetrators accountable. Participants examined the various legal means available to institute legal proceedings against coup leaders in Egypt. And that's been happening through the activities that we have done. You've seen, I'm not going to repeat what we've just seen. The aims is to bring justice to those who abuse human rights and to form a strong network of human rights activists and lawyers to expose human rights violations committed. The ICFR is set to support just causes and mobilize public opinion against any human rights abuses. We have managed to to achieve such aims through the main activities that we set out to do through networking. For example, ICFR is set about to achieve those aims through cooperating with international human rights organizations and civil society institutions. It also attempted to reach its aims through expanding the capacity of human rights activists and engagement. It also supports all efforts which could lead to bringing to trial of those who abuse human rights. It cooperates with international organizations concerned with human rights and international law. As we said, institute legal proceedings at local and international courts against those who abuse human rights, and to support all efforts and activities aimed at raising awareness of human rights abuses and international laws related. And the main thing is to raise the awareness of human rights, raise the awareness of human rights activists. The second area that we have been working in is setting legal commitments through the delegations that we have dispatched to Egypt. As you have seen, we had so far 4 main delegations. The first one which set a stepping stone for the rest of the delegations and was a solid foundation for us to persevere and to keep going, was in the 5th to 10th of January. And the aim behind that delegation was to attend President Morsi's trial and join the defense team of the Alexandria girls. Later on, the case against the Alexandria girls was dropped, so the main aim was to attend President Morsi's trial. The participants, many of you here have been on delegations with us. People in this room, Bruce Ernesto was with us. Abdin is on the second one. Shabnam, have you been on it as well? Shabnam has been with us, and Dr. Curtis Dubler and George Henry Buetier from Belgium, who couldn't be here with us today. The second delegation stemmed from that one. We were more encouraged. We felt that the team came back with a will and a determination that drove us forward to try to put more pressure on the coup, the military coup, and to try to highlight the human violations that were committed on a daily basis. The second delegation was on the 11th to 14th of March, and we decided to, as I said, to put more pressure on the coup authorities and expose the violations. Participants were Ramsey Clark, the former Attorney General from the USA, and Mr. Abdin Jabara here was with us on that delegation. Arnold Deverley was with us as well, and Dr. Curtis Dubler, who again couldn't be with us. The third delegation was 26th to the 30th of April. We sent a fact-finding mission to Egypt to document the mass death sentences issued by an Egyptian court on the 28th of April 2014 against 683 people, a case which many of you are aware of. The delegation expressed the deep shock after witnessing the deeply flawed and arbitrary trials which saw hundreds of people being sentenced to death without being allowed legal representation. Mr. George Henry Boutier gave a statement at the Parliament in London where he said some of the lawyers of the defendants were carrying evidence that their clients wasn't even in the country at the time of the crime he's accused of, but they were just dismissed. Many of the defendants, the names weren't even recited. They weren't even present in the courtroom, and all of them in under an hour were sentenced to death. Our fourth delegation, again, that delegation, many of you were amongst it. We have Doug Bando was with us, and Andrew Siebrecht was with us from the Netherlands. Maxim from Russia was with us, and amongst many others who were part of that delegation. The fourth delegation, which is the latest and the most recent, it happened in October, where we had 12 men and women participate. Many of them are here with us again. And that's the beauty of this gathering, that we have people who have been there, who have seen things, not by us communicating what's happening, but by witnessing and seeing how the violations and prevention and prevention to access, whether it's meeting people who have the information or being able to see for our own selves the things happening on ground. This was a very intense, probably a delegation out of the four, because we were very closely monitored. We have Roger Sahuta, we have Suzanne Samira Ghazaz, we have Michael Ellman was with us. I'm sorry if I miss any of you, but they played a brilliant role, an excellent role in trying to play along with what the government was trying to put them. They were under a lot of pressure, they were monitored closely, they were aware that there's people around them, and we had a lot of phone calls as soon as Roger arrived. Roger was one of the first people to arrive there. Anas had phone calls from the ministries, which we were trying to get phone calls from them, but there was a wall of silence. We couldn't get access. As soon as Roger arrived at the airport, phone calls flooded in, asking us to go back, and they will welcome us at a later date. That was too late, and we had to proceed. We said the delegation is arriving one after the other. They tried to put a welcoming face, and they were quite friendly in promising that they will grant us access and make it easy, but not any of those grants were achieved. They claimed that we did not take the proper routes to gain permissions, but the actual fact is that we have sent weeks before through different means, emails, phone calls, faxes, and FedEx, letters to ministries to ask them either to reject us or accept us, but a wall of silence. Only one instance is when FedEx called us and said they rejected the parcel. They didn't even want to receive it. Other than that, we had no means of knowing what exactly do they want us to do. Once we were on ground, we were closely monitored. They tried to seem helpful and tried to take us to places, but in the report you will see that not much access was given. We were, while the delegation was there was a massive negative coverage on the local media, governmental, of course, controlled. And to be honest, we were for a while worried about the safety of our delegation, and I was in constant communication with them just to make sure, because all the names was there with them. We always make sure that the government is aware of everyone who's on the delegation. We communicate that even to the embassies, and we encourage our participants to be there. But it was a challenging one. There was two programs, local programs, a full coverage of ICFR for 2 days, 90 minutes program, trying to question our motives. Why are we there? Who's behind us? Who's funding this? And why are they interested in Egypt? And who has brainwashed the lawyers to be there? And what have they fed into their brains? And only me and the lawyers know that the only discussion was about the logistics and arrangements, and for them to go and to use the whole, their will and their determination to see what's going on and come back and report to us. So it was a very interesting delegation indeed, as was the three others. I think the main point for us is raising awareness, either through publications, and as you saw, we've got weekly newsletters in different languages. We've got reports, testimonies about human rights violations in Egypt. Also, we've got it monitors the weekly activities that ICFR conduct, because I think it's very important to always concentrate on what's happening as well. When everyone is working separately, it's very good to come together and to have some kind of coalition in at least knowing what are others doing and maybe trying to imitate that. Also through meetings, ICFR organized a number of meetings, press conferences and parliamentary sessions to shed light on the human rights violations in Egypt. ICFR was keen on organizing press conferences upon the return of each delegation to communicate the finding to the international community through various media outlets. It has held press conferences in Geneva in March 2013, Washington and London in March 2014. There were conferences in Brussels in April, May 2014, and following our fourth delegation, we held press conferences in Brussels, London, and Washington, D.C. in November of this year. Many of the lawyers here are the main participants. We made sure that they are the ones who communicate, they are the ones who talk and address whether the media or the international community. Again, an important issue to us was the media coverage. The ICFR press conferences and events were covered by a number of media outlets, mainly Al Jazeera, English and Arabic, who's been always there. Our friend Doug Bandu is a journalist, and he's written a few articles, I think one of them in Forbes, and again exposing the coup, the military coup in Egypt, and the support of the United States to dismissing their claims of being a democratic regime. So Andre as well in Holland, he had a great role in filing probably a complaint against the Interior Minister, Mohammed Ibrahim. And again, during the duration of these sessions, I want you to come out with your experiences and just put it forward. We've got with us Dr. Abdel Majid, who has just recently helped in compiling a complaint against El-Sisi during his visit. So again, that's another valuable experience that we could learn from. Yet we admit that still the media coverage isn't as powerful as we want it to be. During press conferences, the focus on Western media isn't always responded to. That is something we would look forward to. I had beautiful recommendations from Mr. Abdin Jbara with regards to how can we move forward, strengthen the media team, and maybe put forward some kind of a toolkit or guidelines to engaging more with the Western media, trying to find means and tools to attract them, maybe working at a level that will keep them updated and us up to date with the events that's happening, because that is, at the end of the day, what grabs their attention. I think that is what we have been doing in ICFR over the past year. I feel that it was a very rich year. For me personally, coming into this and dealing with professionals like yourselves, and having the pleasure of communicating with you, learning from you, listening to you, it has enriched us greatly. And during the conference today and tomorrow, I'm hoping for more enrichment, for more engagement, for more of learning from each other, and for us to feel that when we step out of the conference tomorrow, we have, the aims are clearer. Things that we can do is closer to mind, and we come with tangible aims, objectives, ideas that can be put in practical terms. Okay, that's it for me. Now I will straight move you on to the first session, which is going to be led by Dr. Maha Azzam. Dr. Maha Azzam is the head of the Egyptian Revolutionary Council. I do apologize for any bios in this book, because the later ones, the late bios that we received, we weren't able to update it, but I promise you that we will update it on the website. So forgive us if there's any mistakes, and highlight it to us, tell us if there's any mistakes done, and we will correct them. The logistic team have been wonderful in trying to deal with late issues. But Dr. Maha is going to chair this next session, and the main contributors to this is Mr. Abdin Jbara and Mr. Walid Sharabi, Dr. Walid Sharabi. Dr. Walid Sharabi is going to address us in Arabic, and you could switch on the channel 2. I said it was English. Maha, over to you.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. It's a great honor to be chairing this first session of the first annual conference of the ICFR. The work of the ICFR is extremely important to all those who believe in upholding human rights in the Middle East region. Their contribution as regards Egypt is crucial, and the work that they've done through yourselves is crucial to the struggle for freedoms and rights in Egypt and beyond. So it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. Our first session today is on the coup regime in Egypt and its role in increasing violations of human rights. I have a great pleasure in introducing two prominent speakers in this field. First of all, let me introduce Judge Walid Sharabi to my right. Judge Walid Sharabi has been a judge for 17 years in Egypt and had to leave or was dismissed during the coup regime of Sisi by General Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. He is a prominent voice for freedom and justice in Egypt, and he is central to the struggle for those freedoms. His work has been of the utmost importance in exposing the regime and ensuring that there is justice for the victims of that regime. So let me turn first to Judge Sharabi.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أشكرك دكتورة مها، السادة أعضاء الائتلاف العالمي للحريات والحقوق، السيدات والسادة الحضور، اسمحوا لي أن أتوجه أولا بالشكر على هذا الجهد والتنظيم الرائع لهذا المؤتمر، والذي أتمنى أن تكلل مجهوداته بالنجاح وما سيسفر عنه من توصيات أو قرارات. لقد مرت عدة دول في منطقة الشرق الأوسط في الآونة الأخيرة بعدة ظروف صعبة ومعقدة تخص الوضع الإنساني والسياسي والاجتماعي فيما عرف بدول الربيع العربي. عندما خرجت الشعوب في مصر وسوريا وليبيا وتونس واليمن والعراق تهدف إلى الحرية وتتطلع إلى غد مشرق تسود فيه قيم الإنسانية والديمقراطية، إلا أن ما حدث من أغلب الأنظمة القائمة في هذه الدول أن قابلت الثورات الشعبية بآلات القمع الديكتاتورية، فنالت من حق الإنسان في الحياة وحقه في الكرامة وحقه في الحرية، وذلك حتى تتمكن هذه الأنظمة من الإجهاز على هذه الثورات حتى يتم القضاء عليها وتنعم الأنظمة الديكتاتورية بالبقاء في السلطة. إلا أن التجربة المصرية كان لها وضع خاص ومنهج غريب في الاتحاد والتوحد الذي تم بين آلة القمع والقتل التي عملت عليها السلطات المصرية للقضاء على هذه الثورة، وبين الأداء القضائي في مصر الذي أصبح جزءا لا ينفصل عن آلات القمع والقتل لدى السلطات المصرية. واسمحوا لي من خلال هذه الكلمة أن أستعرض مع حضراتكم وفي عدة عناصر كيف تحول القضاء في مصر من مؤسسة للعدالة إلى أداة قمع في يد السلطة الحاكمة للبلاد منذ 3 يوليو 2013 وحتى الآن. أولا، منذ الأحداث التي وقعت في مصر في 3 يوليو 2013 وجرائم القتل شبه اليومية تقع في صفوف الشعب المصري على يد قوات الجيش والشرطة، وثقت بالفيديوهات وفي شوارع وميادين والجامعات المصرية، إلى أن أصبحت أعداد الضحايا تقدر بالآلاف. وبالرغم من ذلك لم تقم سلطات التحقيق القضائية في مصر بالتحقيق ولو في حالة قتل واحدة من بين هذه الحالات. ثانيا، وثقت العديد من المنظمات الحقوقية الدولية الكثير من الجرائم ضد الإنسانية ترقى في الكثير من الأحوال إلى مرتبة الإبادة الجماعية من قبل قوات الجيش والشرطة في مصر ضد الشعب المصري، وخاصة في اليوم الدامي 14 أغسطس 2013. وتم ذلك في عدة مناطق من القاهرة والجيزة. وأيضا لم تباشر سلطات التحقيق القضائية في مصر أي إجراء أو تحقيق قبل هذه الجرائم، وذلك بالرغم من خروج المسؤولين عن هذه الجرائم إلى وسائل الإعلام أقروا واعترفوا أنهم كانوا مسؤولين عن تلك الجرائم وأصحاب القرارات لتنفيذها. ثالثا، إن أشكال جرائم العنف ضد المرأة والتي وصلت في عدة حالات موثقة إلى الاغتصاب الكامل داخل السجون ومقرات الاحتجاز.
In the courtrooms and the prisons, and I mean, also, although that they were documented by the legal authorities, no judicial actions have taken against to these cases. And in the fourth place, from the United Nations, when the resolution number 39 was issued, it was, I mean, there were also some information about some arbitrary arrestment has been conducted as well. And the 7 friends of the President Morsi was seen as an unlawful and injustice application, and it requires an indemnification to be paid, and they also ask to release the President Morsi right at that time, but still the harassments were just continuing. In the laws of the Egypt, normally the judicial system, the prosecution is under the control of the judicial system, but up to now in the prisons 86 cases were resulted in that, due to the bad living conditions, and the prosecutors in Egypt and the courts have never filed a case against to these cases happening in the Egypt, and the courts of Egypt have just given a lot of judgments about the mass death of the people in the courts. And in 24th March 2014, only one single court in one trial, 525 people sentenced to death. And 28 April 2014, in again one single case, a court has sentenced 683 people to death. And again, another court in Egypt, 188 people were sentenced to death. And there are tens of different cases which have resulted in the death of the people in the Egyptian courts. Of course, this resolution which have been taken by the Court of Egypt were criticized a lot by the authorities in the other countries as well. And in the first place, the evaluation of and the measures of the justice in the United Nations, for normally if any prisoner in front of the judge should be judged in injustice. In 2013, December 23rd, the law which has been enacted since January 1st, 2014, it has been in circulation. 6 new court has been opened, so they are just trying to continue opening up some courts for the new cases for the accused people. So this underlines that those people are not judged in front of a regular court in Egypt. And again, in Egypt, the judicial system and the judges in Egypt are just trying to put all the oppositions into the courts. And the number of the people who were accused because of the political views reached up to 41,000. So what I would like to tell you, the judicial system has just been an instrument for their own arbitrary vision. And the government available in Egypt now has just been signed off a very arbitrary resolutions and court verdicts, and many of the judges have been retired because they were siding with the views of the President Morsi. And including me, many of the honest judges have just been retired, and they were also prohibited to go out beyond the boundaries of Egypt as well. And a lot of operations have been put upon them, and their roads have been blocked as well. And especially judicial bodies of Egypt are just in command of the coup available in the Egypt. 312 numbered letter was sent to the judicial organs and bodies, and this is in a way an indication of their operation over the judicial system in Egypt. And these courts and during the trials made by these courts, the people of Egypt are not satisfied. And this conference, at the end of this conference, there will be a report to be issued and to be submitted to the United Nations Security Council. And the special courts should be recommended to be built up, as they are available in the other countries similar to Egypt, especially. Thank you very much for listening to me and having me over here.
Thank you very much, Judge Walid Shorabi, for this very important contribution and as an opening statement also to the conference. And I think we need to perhaps put on record his recommendation to the conference as something to be discussed over the next day and a half. Let me now turn to Mr. Abdeen Jabara. It's a great pleasure to have you here with us. And Mr. Abdeen Jabara has practiced as a lawyer in the United States. He is an Arab American. He's practiced as a lawyer in New York and Michigan. And I have his bio here, which is obviously in front of you, so I won't read all of it. But he was past president of the Association of Arab American University Graduates. And he has also been president of the American Arab Anti-Discrimination Committee and a board member of the Center for Constitutional Rights. He is a lifelong member of the American Civil Liberties Union and National Lawyers Guild. He has participated in and organized and led over 10 delegations of Americans on civil rights issues to the Middle East, and with particular emphasis on Palestine. He has been, throughout his career, a vocal opponent of illegal curtailment of civil and personal rights of the Arab Americans and others. I think you'd agree with me, he's extremely well placed to take us on with this very important issue. Please, Dr. Jabara.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and I would like to first extend my thanks to the ICFR for inviting me to participate in this colloquium or conference, and to extend my very deep appreciation and greetings to Dr. Anas Al-Takriti, and with great wishes for a speedy recovery from his illness. I would also like to extend my thanks to Dr. Ragad Takhriji for her enormous efforts in bringing this conference to fruition, and to welcome us with such an open and warm spirit. It's been part of the joy of being here in Istanbul to find her smiling face and welcome as we arrived here in this hotel. sometimes I feel like I'm on the Titanic when I'm talking about human rights, because we know that the question of human rights and international human rights is a very difficult issue because of the lack of real institutions to secure those rights in international law. I want to thank all of those of you who came from far and wide to be here to talk about this. I was on that second delegation to Egypt with my very good friend Ramsey Clark, and it was my first participation in a human rights delegation to an Arab country, and I feel very remiss that I had not begun those investigations and delegations prior to that one. And so I benefited enormously from the 4 days that we spent in Egypt. It was a really eye-opening experience, and I came back totally aware of the enormous burden that are now being placed upon the shoulders of the Egyptian people as they live under a most oppressive regime. Indeed, since we were there, it has become much more repressive. Indeed, I would say fascistic, with the passage of laws curtailing news media coverage, the new law governing demonstrations. All of these things are all on the path of creating a fascist dictatorship, one that I experienced before in an Arab country when I visited Iraq during the time of Saddam Hussein. I must say that it's very painful for me to experience this, because I have been a long supporter of Palestinian rights, and to find Arab countries engaging in the same practices that Israel does is very painful, and it's for that reason that I came back particularly disturbed from my trip to Egypt. Now, I don't know how many of you know about what has been happening in the United States, because in a way it relates to what we are here discussing here today. As I left the United States, there were demonstrations ongoing around the country, in cities, in different parts of the country. And I don't know whether you have heard the name Michael Brown or Eric Garner. I don't know whether you've heard the name of Muhammad Bouazizi or Khalid Said. Khalid Said and Michael Brown and Eric Garner and Muhammad Bouazizi all have something in common, and that is they were subjects not only to police abuse, but to death at the hands of the police. Bouazizi, of course, was one who set himself on fire because of the way in which he was treated by the police in Tunisia. But Khalid Said, a 28-year-old young man in Alexandria, Egypt, who was engaged in the import-export business, involved in import-export, was suspected of having posted on a video stream photos of policemen who were distributing among themselves the spoils of a drug raid. This was picked up and went viral in Egypt, and a whole page was created by Wa'il Ghanem, whose name you may have heard, who worked for Google in Egypt. And the web page was "We Are All Khalid Said." And this picture that was put up there was one that was taken by Khalid Saeed's brother when he went to the morgue to see his mangled face, because the two plainclothes policemen that came to take him, because he had put this on the media, social media, had taken him and slammed his head repeatedly into an iron door, and his face was all mangled. And it was that picture, along with pictures of him as a young man, that went viral. And this happened in June of 2010. And in January of 2011, the revolution, or what was supposed to be a revolution, began in Egypt. In January, it was spurred on by this enormous amount of police corruption and abuse in Egypt. I understand that there are over 1 million people who are employed as policemen in Egypt, all right? I will not go into all of the things that happened that led up to the ultimate election that brought in President Mohamed Morsi into office. There was a great deal of struggle, internal struggle, but he was removed in a military coup. And it was not, when we were there, we went and visited the Ministry of Justice, met with the Minister of Justice, and he called it another revolution. The July 3rd removal of President Morsi, when in fact it was a counter-revolution. This was a counter-revolution. And the military in Egypt is like the military all over the world. They should stay out of the lives of the civilian population. This military is as oppressive as the military was here in Turkey, to counter the popular sentiments of the people. So I thought to myself, what is it that I can say to this conference that will have any effect, have any kind of a direction toward resolving these problems? And it's interesting that I read a piece in the New York Times that was not about Egypt. It was about Iraq and Syria by Thomas Friedman, who is a famous journalist, very pro-American, supported the Iraq War. But he said something in this article that stood out at me and that I thought would help us to deliberate here today. He said, "I often reflect on interviews I did with Egyptian women at all female voting stations in the poorest neighborhood in Cairo in the 2012 election that brought a Muslim Brotherhood leader to the presidency. Almost all of them had voted for the Muslim Brotherhood candidate, Mohamed Morsi. But when I asked why, not one of them cited religion. Instead, they said that Mr. Morsi would bring jobs, security, sidewalk, better living conditions, and an end to corruption. In short, better governance. Morsi was eventually toppled," he said, "for bringing none of these, not because he was impious." Well, I think that Friedman was wrong on this. The opposition to Morsi from the time he was elected was designed to make him fail, to bring him down. They did not want the Freedom and Justice Party to succeed. And these were the people of Mubarak and the whole institution of the Mubarak regime that continued to operate in Egypt, and that is the regime that brought Mohamed Morsi down. Now, how can this be corrected? And I listened to Judge Sharabi, and I've read the reports from the UN Human Rights Council, and they list all of these various human rights violations, the mass trials, the death sentences, the beatings in the prison, the denial of right to counsel, all of these things. And we, I think, are making a big mistake if we take them on an individual basis. There is a system here. It's a system that is developed because there is a party that has power that is able to commit these crimes and these injustices. And this party is able to do that because they came to power illegally. And they do not have credibility, nor do they have legitimacy. What is the solution to this? The solution to this is contained in the International Covenant on Human and Political Rights. It is the doctrine that people have a right to choose their leaders. And that is the right to elect their leaders, to form political parties of their choosing. I'm not talking about American-style political parties that are dominated by wealth and money contributions, but I'm talking about real democracy. And that is what we should be asking for in Egypt today. We should be having petitions filed by individual Egyptians on a continuous basis to the United Nations Human Rights Council demanding that they be allowed to vote in free and fair elections. That is what has been lacking in Egypt, and that is what the coup d'etat against President Morsi was designed to prevent. So with having said that, the other one agenda item I would like to leave you with for discussion today is that I think that we need to have a permanent legal bureau to follow up on these issues. All right, we've had 4 delegations from the ICFR. They've been excellent. It's wonderful, the reports that they return and produce. But we need to have a staffed legal bureau with a budget that can reach out and seize opportunities as they arise. For this petition drive, for instance, I would try to get people in Egypt to have a form, have them fill out a form that they voted for Mohamed Morsi and they have now been denied the right to exercise the right of franchise freely, and have that sent to the United Nations Human Rights Council. That is what we need to do. We need to insist that people have a right to participate freely and fairly in the choice of their leaders. So having said that, I have nothing further, but I want to say many of us have been to many conferences and conventions, and we listen to presentations, etc., and get a lot of information. But I understood this to be a working conference, a conference that was helping to develop a path forward. And I think that if we try to single out one human rights violation and work on mass trials or work on the issue of beatings or so forth, we are making a mistake, because we're not dealing with the power that is causing these violations. So I thank you for listening to me today, and I thank you for coming here, and I hope that our deliberations will be fruitful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jabara. I would like to try to take forward with this session, which, because we started a little bit late, we may be able to extend till about 11:30. I'd like to take some of these suggestions forward. We've obviously got many specialists and experts round the table, and we would like to hear from as many of you as possible during this session. But I would ask you to introduce yourself, please, and to also try to keep your interventions fairly brief. There may be even a chance to come back. And again, the cataloguing of violations, of course, is important, but I think we need to take the opportunity today to see how we can move forward, to look at some of the recommendations that the speakers have made in regards to special courts, to petitions, to confronting the system. All three of those are recommendations that have been made this morning. What other recommendations can those around the table make? We need to hear different ideas, see how we can move forward, so in the day and a half that we have together, we do come out with some concrete proposals and that we can move with. Thank you very much. So I open the floor to whoever would like to make a comment. And again, please introduce yourselves. The light is directly in my eyes, so please excuse me if I don't see you. You've got to wave your hand or something. So who would like to start with a comment? Please go ahead.
Good morning to all. My name is Mahmoud Al-Mubarak. I'm a professor of international law in Saudi. I think we can speak for weeks here about international legal issues, and that will not change anything in the political status quo in Egypt or elsewhere. I believe what we need to do is to take concrete steps that will increase international pressure on the Egyptian government, that will therefore hopefully eventually will force the international governments to take actions against the current government in Egypt. One of the steps that I have asked to study and take into account last year in our meeting here was to look into the EU-Egyptian agreement and try to build a case in which, as we all know, the Article 2 of EU agreements with other countries always emphasize on keeping human rights issues. And as obvious, what happened in Egypt since the coup, human rights have not been kept in order. So I think we can take this into account and study it profoundly and hopefully come to a concrete step.
Thank you very much. Anybody else from around the table? Please, Professor Korn.
Hello? Yeah. My name is Marjorie Cohn, and I'm from the National Lawyers Guild from the United States, and I want to thank the people here for coming and the organizers for the invitation. I want to just pick up on a couple of things that Abdeen Jabara said, and I really appreciate his comments about the illegitimacy of the government and how that should be the focus. Abdeen suggested sending information to the Human Rights Council. I would also add that that Egypt has ratified the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and the body that administers and interprets that treaty is the Human Rights Committee. It's different from the Human Rights Council. And when countries are parties to that treaty, including Egypt, they have a duty to report on their progress in complying with the obligations in the treaty, in the ICCPR. And those reports are submitted to the Human Rights Committee, and then organizations such as this organization and other organizations from civil society can present information to the Human Rights Committee about how Egypt is not complying with its obligations under the ICCPR. So I would suggest that one of the things that we could do is to submit reports to the Human Rights Committee of the ICCPR about how the government of Egypt is violating the obligations under the treaty. And I also want to add to what Abdeen said, that in the report on the January 2014 delegation, the last 2 pages are excerpts from the ICCPR. The other thing that I would suggest is that there is what is called the Universal Periodic Review, where human rights records of different countries are reviewed, and Egypt's record was reviewed in 2010 and again in November of this year. And there was a hearing on Egypt's record here. I don't know if this organization did submit reports to that hearing or whether it's too late to present supplementary materials. Maybe it isn't because it just happened last month. So that's another avenue that we might pursue. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that in regards to the Universal Periodic Review, a number of human rights organizations submitted in Geneva just a month or so ago. But the other round is coming up in March. I think, I'm not sure about more submissions, but certainly many human rights organizations that spoke of violations submitted on that occasion. Who else? Maybe you can help me, Jamal. I can't see anyone else. Please, Fadl.
My name is Michael Ellman. I'm a solicitor from London, and I joined the last delegation to Egypt in October. I'm mandated by the Haldane Society of Socialist Lawyers, and I'm also involved with FIDH, the International Federation for Human Rights. I went to Egypt on a mission for the Union Internationale des Avocats, the UIA, back in the 90s. And it's very sad to find that things are still as bad as they were then. Egyptian society was and is extremely divided between a large body of Muslims, Islamists, on the one hand, and on the other hand, a large number of liberals, radicals, progressives, who of course were the body of those who joined together in Tahrir Square over the last, in 1910 and 1911, and forced the revolution. The revolution resulted in elections. Unfortunately, in the first round of those elections, almost all the liberal or progressive candidates were eliminated, and Egyptians were faced in the second round with a choice between Mohamed Morsi of the Muslim Brotherhood, Freedom and Justice Party on the one hand, and the other candidate who was an ex-minister of Mubarak. So it was between the devil and the deep blue sea, and many of them opted for Morsi, thinking that he would be the lesser of two evils. He had made some progressive remarks, and he was duly elected. And he made a good start, I think, but despite that, he made a number of errors, and particularly failed to take into account the enormous power of the army here in Egypt. The army, which had previously kept out of politics, but he obviously antagonized them to a considerable degree. And when in summer 2013, you had 1 million people out on the streets calling for the overthrow of Morsi, even though there were, I believe, about 500,000 in other parts of Cairo and other cities calling for his maintenance in power. The army opted for the removal of Morsi, and unfortunately did it in a a vicious and quite undemocratic way, locking him and his collaborators up, and they still remain on trial, and there has been no open trial. So this division in Egyptian society is perpetuated, and there are, of course, over 20,000 people locked up, opponents of the regime, locked up today. We met a number of them and a number of their relatives here in Cairo in October, and it was a really tragic situation. It's very difficult to see any way out of it. It's a bit like the situation in Chile, where the powers that be, notably the USA, didn't like the election of Allende and moved in to empower the army to take over. And exactly the same thing has happened in Egypt, even if it wasn't directly on the initiative of the USA. It was part of the fallout from the disastrous war in Iraq, which created such enormous bitterness in the Arab world and indeed throughout the third world against the West. And this persists. I agree with Marjorie Cohen's suggestion that we should follow up with the Human Rights Committee and the UPR. I would also suggest that it's time we looked at the International Criminal Court to see whether clearly the shooting of thousands of demonstrators, the pro-Muslim demonstrators in the Rabat Square, I think it was, in 2013, was a crime against humanity and a crime and could be the subject of investigation. And I think we could put this forward to the prosecutor for preliminary investigation. I think Egypt has not signed the International Criminal Court statute yet, but nevertheless the Security Council can take steps, and if enough pressure is put, that might be one more possibility. But the situation is very difficult to see what to do about it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Of course, Egypt's case did go before the ICC, so it needs, not before, but it was raised by the lawyers of the FJP. So the issue here is how to resuscitate that, or what other channels can be used. So perhaps that's something, maybe any suggestions that we can come up with again over the next, over today and tomorrow would be most welcome. Any other contributions? Please.
Before everything, I would like to thank you very much for your participating in here. I am Dr. Refik Korkuz. I'm a lawyer. I'm a Dean of Law Faculty in Istanbul University. Before everything, I would like to review and see the real situation of 4 countries. One of them is the Tunis, and another of them Egypt. Refik Korkuz, I said. One of them is Tunis, and another of them Egypt, and another of them Ukraine, and the fourth of them Turkey. The same potential of those countries is that the governments were elected by the people. But unfortunately, those governments weren't demanded by the USA and the United Union. Also some different countries. And unfortunately, the meetings in those countries started at the same time. In Tunis Square, in Tahrir Square, in Toledo Square, in Taksim Square. Unfortunately, the names are the same. And after the civil meetings and demonstrations in Egypt and Ukraine, the government has gone. But in Tunis, the government resigned. But in Turkey, didn't resign. And same as the before. And the same operation, the same violations, and the same problems of military corps passed in our country also. We passed the same problems four times. But unfortunately, our people wouldn't react as the people of Egyptian reacted. I think it's a good direction. Addition to it, I would like to recommend new things. I think the demonstrations and the meetings would be reacted and met in different countries, like Turkey, like United States, and like European Unions and other countries, because democratically elected governments wouldn't became from those fair demands and democratic rights. And I think and they reacted positively, and those situations would be the end of military coup. Also, the democratic political persons have to make a plan after the military coup. The most dangerous of the people of the countries is that the bad situation after the military coup. I believe that these military coup, these military leaders, they will go. But after that, do you have any plan peacefully, democratically, and also improve the economic situation of the people? I think the most important things are that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone to the right, please?
My name's Carl Buckley. I'm a UK-based solicitor. I'm a partner of the TMC advisory group. I'd just like to pick up on a point that was mentioned about a permanent legal team being put together. And I think listening to all of the various points and suggestions that were mentioned this morning, it's incredibly important that that is perhaps explored further. There was the suggestion of the ICC application. Yes, of course, that can go through the UN Security Council. However, given that there still appears to be significant support for the CC regime, it's unlikely that that's going to get through. Alternatively, therefore, we need to pursue other avenues such as the exercising of universal jurisdictions in various states around the world. Now, that lends itself to a coordinated approach, which I'm a big fan of. I'd like to see a permanent group of lawyers put together so that everybody knows who is involved, what applications are being put in what countries and under what jurisdictions and to what groups. That way we can ensure that the same work isn't being repeated unnecessarily, and also it will enable other groups who have information that perhaps we can use and vice versa. We can make sure excuse me, we can make sure that it's shared, and we can make sure that the strongest case possible is put forward wherever we may be putting that. So I think it's something that we do need to talk about further.
Can I ask you, just because it is such an important issue, to elaborate a little bit from a sort of structural point of view as to how we move forward with that?
As far as the legal group is concerned?
Yes, the legal team.
Off the top of my head, it's difficult.
Yeah. No. Well, it's something for us maybe to think about, because if we want to activate such a thing, just again to initiate the first steps or to propose the first steps would be useful.
I think the first steps is we need to consider those of us who are here now, who are lawyers who would want to be involved, and we can look at drawing up that initial list as a first step. Particularly where people are based as far as jurisdictions are concerned. I think that would be the most appropriate way to start, and we can then work from there.
I think it's an opportunity, since there are some of you gathered together here over the next couple of days.
Certainly.
Thank you very much. Please.
My name is André Sebrechts. I'm a lawyer from the Netherlands, and the first steps indeed have been taken. In the Netherlands, charges have been brought against Minister of the Interior Ibrahim and other leaders of the regime. I've done that on the behalf of some victims there, working together with, among others, Walid Sharabi, and it would seem to me that the first most practical thing we need to do is to decide who would be able to coordinate such a team. Decide which one of us, maybe Ragad, or I'd be willing to do it, or maybe Carl, and say, look, this is a person who could coordinate, because I'm very curious as to whether other countries also have laws, like the Netherlands does, that says that you can prosecute in these countries, and under what conditions you could prosecute there. So I think step one would be deciding who could coordinate this.
Please.
If I may just offer, maybe some of the things that I'm going to say have been repeated from an earlier conference. My name is Shabnam. I'm from South Africa, and I assist the Muslim Lawyers Association. I just wanted to offer, in terms of structure, first we would need to look at which countries have taken action, and then probably group them together into jurisdictions or look at a regional coordination. In terms of practical considerations, what I wanted to offer was that we've done two things. The first thing is that South Africa was the first country to actually bring a case locally in terms of the Rome Statute, which we have made part of our national legislation. We brought it for crimes against humanity and war crimes against Egypt, so even before the English matter went out. The way it works in South Africa, though, is now our docket then goes to the National Office of the Public Prosecutor, and then they choose whether they will proceed. And the reason why this entire process has been on hold is because, if any of you know, the situation in Zimbabwe is quite dire, and Zimbabwean citizens have brought a case in South African courts asking South Africa to take a stand because they will not get justice in Zimbabwe. So all these cases that we've been doing as the Muslim Lawyers Association, including the arrest of Obama, the Operation Cast-led arrest, have all been on hold awaiting this judgment, which has now come out positively, and so we're starting with the second wave. The other thing is, we thought that we should approach the African Union, because this is a regional bloc, it's easier, and the African Union has taken a strong step in terms of kicking Egypt out initially. So what we've done there is brought the same crimes against humanity and war crimes, but more recently, we were thinking among ourselves that we always ask for a negative action in terms of an arrest, right? So let's ask for positive action. And what we asked for, I think it was at the end of August, was the AU to then open Rafah, allowing aid, emergency personnel in and refugees out. And that is sitting on emergency procedure at the African Union as well. I'm not sure if anyone else is using the AU in that fashion, but I think what happens is the more variety we have in the actions we bring, the more types of relief we try to look for, the better our chances, because we are able to then see what works and what doesn't. And I'm sure many other countries have done similar actions as well. Thank you.
في البداية أشكركم على الدعوة للحضور لهذا المؤتمر. أنا اسمي عبد المجيد المراري من باريس، مدير مكتب منظمة إفدي الدولية لحقوق الإنسان، مستشار قانوني. أود في البداية أن أقف مع مداخلة الدكتور وليد الشرابي، لأنها كانت مداخلة مهمة جدا، أعتبرها أرضية هذه الصبحية. فالعدالة في الأساس هي أصل كل تنمية اقتصادية وأصل كل تنمية اجتماعية وثقافية. بدون استقلال القضاء لن يكون هناك تقدم اقتصادي، لن يكون هناك تقدم على المستوى الثقافي والاجتماعي وغيره من المجالات، كل مرتبط بالعدالة. حتى أن هناك شعبة في إحدى الجامعات العربية، شعبة حول العدالة ومركزيتها في التنمية. نحن هنا للخروج بمقترحات عملية صراحة. كل مؤتمر وكل محطة دولية نلتقي فيها نسهب كلاما ونسهب يعني تحليلا وتعليقا، وأحيانا يفوت علينا أو تفوتنا الفرصة لوضع واقتراح خطوات عملية في الأمر. لذا أنا أدعو في البداية إلى التبني الكامل والمطلق والمصادقة على مقترح الدكتور وليد شرابي بتأسيس محكمة لمتابعة مرتكبي جرائم ضد الإنسانية والإبادة الجماعية والتعذيب في مصر، قياسا على على محكمة رواندا وقياسا على محكمة الحريري، طبعا مع وجود الفريق. فقط ينبغي التفكير في الصياغ والسبل.
And a method should have been built up as well. And the second thing is this. I'm inviting you all, after taking all the necessary steps, a methodology should be developed. I mean, this crime should have been unearthed and put forth in front of the public as well. And why shouldn't we apply to the United Nations in this matter? Because I've got an experience that has been done in January from United Nations. We have received a complaint. Professor from an Arabic university, and it's a very well-known university, and is the associate of physics department, and it has been raised that it was the Ikhwan Muslim. And of course, there were a lot of allegations against him, which are not true. And we have complained about this case to the United Nations office. And of course, some other mechanism could have been also used and can be used available in the United Nations. All the participants available over here in this conference should just speed up their efforts in order to fight against these crimes, even if it is just partial reports. For example, take the violence of the children rights as a subject. Even with a very funny allegation, the children are kept as prisoners. I mean, with the allegation that he has fired missiles on the aircraft and cause it to fall down. I mean, there are such allegations, such stupid allegations raised against those people who were also against the coup. available in Egypt. If we have time, if we will have some time in the evening, because I'm not, I don't want to take your time much, and investigating of our complaints. I think, and I mean, this claimant has just been submitted to the court in France, but I'm going to be touching upon that subject later on in the evening if we've got some more time.
Well, Mr. Jabari, you wanted to say, to add something?
I just want to elaborate on one of the suggestions that I made. I made two suggestions. One was for a drive, if you will, to get individual petitions about the denial of voting rights and under the International Covenant. But the other one was a much more immediate one for our purposes here, is that a permanent staffed legal bureau be established that has where you have a director who is a trained lawyer with international legal experience, who can coordinate and direct and organize the disparate efforts that are happening in various areas, and to initiate. I don't think it can be on a purely voluntary basis from people around the world that are doing their individual things. I think there has to be a plan, and I think there has to be, you can have a board, for instance, consultative board for this, whatever you want to call it. You can call it a legal bureau, you can call it, but it has to be organized and funded in a way that it will be able to follow up on a legal basis the work of this ICFR. That's all I wanted to contribute.
Thank you very much. I think Judge Sharabi wanted to also add a few words.
في الحقيقة كنت أود أن أنا أوضح لحضراتكم أن في مشكلة حقيقية فيما يخص الاتهام ونسبته إلى المتهمين داخل مصر. الحقيقة أن الأداء الحالي في مصر أداء بيمر بمرحلة في منتهى العشوائية. يعني هشرح لحضراتكم مثال حصل في مصر قريبا منذ حوالي شهرين، وللأسف الشديد أنا أعتقد أنتم ممكن تضحكوا من المثال، بس هو مش نكتة، يعني هو بيعبر عن مأساة حقيقية حاصلة فعلا. كانت إحدى الفتيات في جامعة الأزهر خرجت في مظاهرة مع الطلبة، وقامت قوات الأمن باعتقالها. الضابط اللي قام باعتقال البنت اغتصب البنت داخل المدرعة الخاصة بالشرطة على مرأى من 2 من الجنود شهود على هذه الواقعة. البنت بعد ما حصل لها الموقف ما بقتش عارفة تعمل ايه، قعدت فترة ساكتة، وبعدين ابتدت تتكلم في الميديا، وكانت الميديا بتحاول ان هي ما تظهرش صورتها.
In the media as well, and media was not trying to disseminate this view of the girl, and if this is the case, if this case is the real, then the evidence should have been submitted to the court, and an official file could have been put into the court. And so some allegations are just put against her, claiming that she has taken place in an illegal demonstration, and nothing is done against the police who raped the girl. So there is a kind of disorderness available in Egypt as well. So I mean, the military corps is using this kind of thing as their instrument, and in order to put violence, especially on the prisoners in the prisons. They are just making up some crimes in order to put them inside the prison on a continuous basis, and they are sometimes taking some of the judges in Egypt are sentencing those people to death, and this was one of the cases that I wanted to touch upon in this conference. And the membership of the Egypt should have been cancelled in the Interpol, and this kind of thing should have not been an instrument for the political affairs, and the people should all support the human rights in Egypt, of course. 6 months ago, an email was sent to me, and Interpol sent me an email in order not to have such a case in Egypt, in order the oppositions not to be imprisoned in Egypt, and all the harassment that the Egypt should be asking for could be sentenced. And of course, there are a lot of arbitrary harassment conducted by Interpol because it was demanded by the coup in Egypt.
I think we're seeing increasingly the connectivity between the nature of this coup regime and the increasing violations. And I think this is key, I think, also in terms of the work that needs to be done. We're not talking about a regime or a country that just committed one or a series of violations that it needs to be held in account for, but continuous violations. And that is the challenge. We're dealing with the post-coup regime and the massacre of Rab'a and the ongoing violations at every level. Whether it's related to women, we haven't mentioned children today, but children as well. The issue of the politicization of various issues and institutions internationally as a kind of way of hitting back. We've just heard about the use of Interpol and a means of trying to suffocate those voices outside of Egypt that are exposing the regime. The challenges before us are enormous, and they draw directly on the nature of this regime, a regime that was described earlier in the day as fascist, with a fascist ideology, with an oppressive security system, and a judiciary that is under its control and that serves it. Therefore, I think, yes, we need some serious recommendations. Some have been made so far. I hope that they are being registered. Maybe, Ragad, you have them for the later sessions, the number of recommendations that were put forward today. If there are any others, or if we want to elaborate on anything before I bring the session to a close, please feel free to come in, please.
Hello, I'm Samira Gazaz from Belgium. I was part of the 4th delegation. Sorry for my English, it's not very, very good, but I hope that you understand me. I want to say that the first thing for me is to list the emblematic cases. You talk about violence against women. We have the problem of the child. We have the problem about the lawyers too, because there are 300 lawyers in jail now. We have the problem of the journalist. So we have all the right the fundamental rights who are violated in Egypt now. And we must list the emblematic case. We must list all the voluntary lawyers who want to complain in their country, or IC, la Cour pénale internationale, how you say that, ICC here. It's the first step. We have a case in Belgium. We complain against Belgium army. I don't know if you heard about the case, both left to die. It was in the Libya war. And we have a team in Belgium, we have a team in France, we have a team in England, in Italian, and each team complain against the army in their country. And perhaps it's the way to apply in each country and to coordinate all the complaint that we can make in each country. Thank you.
I think there was another person on the list.
Good morning. Well, to be very frank with you, what I am listening from you, the blames which are committed in Egypt should be transferred to the international courts. In order to take this step, of course, there are different executions should be made, especially International Crime Court. An international committee should have been formulated, and their authorities and their titles should be very precisely identified. And for example, we need some resolutions issued by the United Nations because one of our friends mentioned about building up the court like Hariri court. But this kind of formations requires the approval of the United Nations, especially for the countries who are the permanent members of the United Nations. Without getting the permission of those countries, it is not possible to form such courts. So I think we have to focus on the realistic steps that we could take in the years ahead. And for example, I mean, this was what has been done in the variety of the courts. For example, if there are some countries in the court of which these cases can be filed, then this country, these courts can be utilized in order to charge those crimes, and especially the ones who commit the crimes can be judged in those courts. So I believe that a very enormous information bank should be established as well. And some of the institutions are working very hard on this matter as well. And there are numerous institutions working on this matter, but they are not professional. There are enormous number of the witnesses as well, and the witnesses who are international law literate know exactly what to do, and this is just shedding some lights on us. And in all the affairs that we are going to be conducting in the future, the results should be like forcing the human rights coalitions to issue resolutions against those crimes. Without an international committee, we cannot appeal to any courts available in any country. NGOs, and we are the president of some of the NGOs as well, but this is not related to the international crimes as well. I mean, if we file a case against this one, we can also be blamed as not being subjective, as not being objective. The same way, I would also like you to remind of these very dangerous crimes violating the international human rights are not very different from the case in Egypt. We are not politicizing the file, but the crime is not committed for nothing. If there is a crime, there is a reason for that. Might be a political reason or any other reasons as well. For example, the military coup came against the legal rule of Egypt. So, I mean, this issue should have been analyzed really very well and take the necessary actions against it. I think the best course that we could do just to go back to the time of before the military coup. So they are just trying to make the people's mind confused by doing so. And especially post-military coup, they are just trying to prevent some of the reactions against that. For example, the manager of the radio television organizations were just sent to the court to be judged. And I mean, the people who committed a crime should have been identified well. It doesn't matter who has just click the triggers, but also the people who also motivate that person to shoot the gun should have been also identified and found. So those are the executions that have been put into application and service. When it comes to Interpol issue, of course there is a problem in this point. There is a problem standing in front of Interpol, and this has just been imposed to our shoulders. The safety and reliance towards the military coup in Egypt should have been eliminated and removed. And this way, the decision sent by the Interpol are not in conformity with the justice. A professional committee should have been established, and the evidence should be collected. And we they have to also put forth in what way the judicial system in Egypt are moving. And the other thing that this council or committee could do is just to take the judicial system in Egypt under control. If the local courts are not committing their duties as it deems to be appropriate, then the international courts can come onto the scene and control what is happening in Egypt. And the serious cases should be also examined, and what kind of solutions and the resolutions taken in each case. And these courts the police and the ones who committed the crimes in January 5th for the military coup is not in compliance with the law in circulation even in Egypt. And there are two more things. We've got two more speeches to be delivered because we are supposed to finish this session in 10 minutes. Could you please wrap it up, your speech? Thank you. Okay.
Do we have a little bit more time? There are 2 points that I would like to mention. I would like to talk to you about some countries. In fact, in international public opinion, there are 5 countries that are members to the Security Council of the United Nations, and there are other powerful countries and international organizations such as the African Union. And these organizations can take a stand and can raise awareness against the military coup. And with these international organizations, this coup can be condemned. This is what we need to do, in my opinion.
Thank you. My name is Linda Marino. I'm an American defense lawyer, and I'm a member of Doughty Street Chambers in London. I come from the country that has opposed the International Criminal Court, and we know why. I wanted to just add my voice to Mr. Jabbar and Mr. Buckley, who unfortunately has left the room, that I think that exploring the compelling suggestion of an international legal bureau to follow up on some of these suggestions and these international supplications and applications for legal remedies is very important. And I guess the analogy I have is the Guantanamo context. I have a client in Guantanamo, I have 2. With one of them, we have to remember that in Guantanamo, it began with no lawyers were allowed to go to Guantanamo and represent clients. That was the beginning of Guantanamo for American lawyers. We had to fight to get that right. And once we got that right, as many of you know, many things have happened in terms of some justice and not. But the trajectory of what has happened in Guantanamo, I would just offer as an example of, I think, something inspiring, which began where those men in Guantanamo Bay were tortured and told that they would have no rights, they had no rights to lawyers, and that they probably would never see their families again. Some of them died. We now know, yesterday, with the publication of the torture report that a lot of this the CIA has been unmasked. So we went from a place where there were no rights, there was no hope, and people were dying, to a universal recognition that of the terrible things that happened in Guantanamo, and some redress to that. That was as a result of not just American lawyers, but international lawyers from around the world who we've worked with. And I see a great benefit in the international law context. One last example. We found in one of our clients that he had been tortured in Poland. We found this through international investigation. We sued in the European Court of Human Rights, and about 3 or 4 months ago, they issued a very historic opinion for Mr. al-Nashri, one, of course, which we could not have gotten in an American courtroom. But I guess my point is that the diversity and the experience of the international legal community, I think, is very, very important.
Thank you very much. I think there was a gentleman on my right. I don't know if he still wants to contribute. No? Oh, please.
Necati Ceylan, avukatım, Uluslararası Hukukçular Birliği Genel Sekreteri Başkanıyım. Genel anlamda olayların değerlendirilmesine baktığımızda ortada bir siyasi ideolojik bir durum var. Bu durum karşısında uluslararası kurumların, özellikle Birleşmiş Milletler, Uluslararası Ceza Mahkemesi, af örgütleri vesaire buna benzer kurumların egemen güçlere taşeronluk yaptığı anlaşılıyor. Ki biraz evvelki meslektaşımızın belirttiği gibi ABD'de yapılan SİHA'nın insanlara işkenceleri yayınlandı. ABD'deki bir Birleşmiş Milletler'in Güvenlik Konseyi'nin ezilen halkların hak ihlallerinde yapabileceği bir şey yok. O yönden bu uluslararası ki bir katılımcıda uluslararası kuruluşların işte izin almadan veya onay almadan kurulamayacağından bahsediyor ki bu kesinlikle egemen güçlerin oluşturduğu kurumlara yoluyla bizim hak ve adaleti, insan hakları ihlallerini önlememiz mümkün değil. Onun için Velit Bey'in de bahsettiği gibi oluşacak ki Türkiye'de Mısır olayları ile ilgili biz vicdan mahkemesi kurduk. Bu yargılama anlamında devam ediyor hala şey olarak. Uluslararası ezilen halkların hukukçuları olarak, insan hakları aktivistleri olarak biz yeni oluşumları kurmamız gerekir. Bu mahkeme ise mahkeme, hukuk bürosu ise hukuk bürosu. Kesinlikle Suriye'de kadın, çoluk, çocuk, sivil, yaşlı katledilirken Uluslararası Ceza Mahkemesi'nde yargılanan kimler? Ki siz daha iyi biliyorsunuz. Afrika'dan 8 tane kişi. Yani hak ihlalleri sadece Afrika'da mı oluyor? Özellikle İslam coğrafyasında mı oluyor? Tayland'da Türkistanlı Türk olduğunu iddia eden insanlar Çin'de katledilirken, idam edilirken Uluslararası Ceza Mahkemesi'nde Çin, ABD, Fransa ki Orta Afrika Cumhuriyeti'ndeki şeylerde de Fransa bizzat gözcülük yapmıştır maalesef. Kimler yargılanıyor? Maalesef sadece ezilen halkların oradaki mücadele eden veyahut da yanlış veya doğru o ayrı bir konu insanlar yargılanıyor. Bu yönden bizim insan hakları konusunda yapabileceğimiz ezilen halkların yanında yeni oluşumlar kurumlar oluşturmamız lazım. Güvenlik Konseyi, Birleşmiş Milletler'den bahsediyoruz. Filistin'le ilgili İsrail'in 200'e yakın kararı var. Hiçbirine uymadı. Uymayan bir Birleşmiş Milletler'in kararı ile insan haklarını, çocukların katledilmesi, kadınların katledilmesi ki biraz evvel verilen örnek çok vahim bir örnektir. İnsan olarak bunu seyredemeyiz. Yani oradaki subayın bir tecavüzünü Uluslararası Ceza Mahkemesi'ne nasıl getireceksiniz? Getiremeyiz. Bu yönden biz insan haklarının, katlinin, insanları katledenlerin cezalandırması yönünden ezilen halklar olarak, ezilen halkların hukukçuları olarak yeni oluşumlar kurmalıyız, yargılamalıyız, peşini bırakmamalıyız. Teşekkür ederim.
I want to give an opportunity for our speakers to have the last word. Mr. Jabari, would you like to add something?
Well, I personally would like to thank each and every one of you who have spoken here because I think it's helped to generate some kind of momentum for focusing on what we can do on an organizational basis so that we can go away from this meeting feeling that there's a foundation for more solid work in moving forward. So I want to thank you all for that. And I look forward to hearing the other panelists today, and I'm sure that by the end of the day we will all be much more informed about where we're heading. Thank you.
All right. So it just leaves me to thank you all for your contributions this morning and to say this was a very fruitful session, a good start. The recommendations have, or the suggestions have been recorded, and I think we should try to take them through during the rest of the day and see what else we can come up with, because I think the idea of this workshop is we do come up with some concrete proposals to move forward. Thank you very much indeed.